Hey, what is up guys, it's Rob. I hope you're doing really good out there. So I've mentioned loads of times on this YouTube channel that I am in a function band. I play a lot of weddings, parties, corporate events, that sort of stuff. And I've also made a video in the past talking about how I make my full-time income as a guitar player, as a musician, and being in this function band is a big part of that. But it only occurred to me lately that, as well as mentioning it every now and again, I've never really gone into much details about what it takes to be in a function band, be a function guitar player and that sort of stuff. So I thought I would start to make maybe a few videos here and there talking a little bit more about what I do. So if anybody out there watching this has got any questions or is curious about anything to do with being a function guitar player, being in a function band and earning money, then please leave it in the comments and let me know, and maybe in future I will make a video about that. So in this video I thought I would start it off by talking about the gear, because that is quite a big part of it, the things that I need to be able to play a gig. So onto the actual equipment now. Let's start with guitars. Over the years, I've probably used all of my guitars at these gigs at some point or other. But it might not surprise anybody to know that my main guitar that I use for the function gigs is my Gibson SG. This guitar is an absolute workhorse. It's great. It's so good for doing this stuff, mainly because it stays in tune brilliantly and it just sounds good for everything that we play in the set, be it a rock song, a pop song, whatever it is, it just handles it really, really well. Some guitars I find are a little bit more specific for certain songs, so they don't really fit for other ones. So it's about finding the right sort of guitar that basically does everything. I mean, you can change guitars in the night if you want, but that's not what I like to do. Like I said, I'm trying to keep everything simple. So one guitar for the whole night, and the Gibson SG for me tackles that the best. Although tomorrow night I've got my first gig of the year and I'm looking forward to taking my new Harley Benton Telecaster and giving that a try and see what that feels like a gig. Maybe that will be my new gigging guitar going forward, who knows, but you know, I'm going to take the SG as well because I know I can trust it. So after the guitars obviously comes the pedal board. This is my whole pedal board. This is everything that I use, and as you'll probably notice, it's very simple. This main one at the bottom here, this is my Sans amp Flyrig 5, and this is my main amp tone throughout the whole night, and I use both of these. I'm going to do a demonstration of this very shortly so you can see what it all sounds like, or hear what it all sounds like. But this is the main pedal that I use to get my overall sound. Obviously here I've got a volume pedal, which is a volume and a wah pedal, which I've also demoed on this channel. Most of these are by Sonicake, by the way, the company that sends me quite a lot of pedals to test out and things like that. And they've actually wound up on my pedal board because I like them so much. So this is the vol wah pedal, and I mainly use this for its volume capabilities rather than the wah, but the wah's there if I need it. Obviously I've got a tuner above it here. This is my TU3, I nearly said TU2 then, but that's a TU3. These two here are both overdrive pedals. I use the green NUX Tubeman overdrive for lead stuff. I use the Sonicake Rude Mouse there for kind of like rhythmic stuff if I want to add a little bit more overdrive to a rhythm sound, so not really for leads and stuff like that. Next I have the Sonicake Noise Wiper, which is just a noise gate, and I've recently added on this Sonicake digital reverb, a reverb pedal. And the Sans amp pedal has also got a really nice delay built into it, so when you look at it, I've got a tuner, a volume pedal, I've got two overdrives, I've got my main amp tone which has got a delay, I've got a noise gate, and I've got a reverb. That's everything that I use. So let's quickly plug this in and I'll show you exactly how it sounds, coming straight out of the pedal board, straight into my computer with nothing else added to it, no amps or anything like that. So let's check this out now. So here we go, I've got everything plugged in just straight into my computer, straight into my laptop. I've got no post-production on this or anything like that. What you're hearing is literally my pedal board plugged straight into my interface, and that's what you're hearing now, which sounds like this. And this sound that you're hearing at the moment, this is just my Sans amp pedal, and I use the Sans amp with the Plexi setting and the hot button boosted as well, which is basically its kind of biggest sort of sound, and it kind of gives me just that sort of edge of breakup sort of tone. That honestly takes care of most of the set list, no matter what it is, if it's a slightly rockier song, if it's a pop song. And then like I said with the Gibson SG, I can clean this tone up even more by rolling the volume down on the guitar. And I can find a nice sweet spot. Obviously I can roll on full volume when I want that little bit more extra sort of push in my tone. But on top of that, I've got two overdrive pedals that you can see here. I've got the Sonicake Rude Mouse and I've got this NUX Tubeman. These are both very inexpensive pedals, by the way. So if I want a slight bit of extra gain on my tone, I would use the Rude mouse, because this is just kind of adding a bit more thickness and a bit more gain. The gain's actually quite high there, I can turn that down more. You get the idea. But I'll turn that off. That's back to my normal tone. But what I use the NUX pedal for is more lead bass playing, so if I kick this on, but now this sounds a lot hotter. Sounds good, but it also sounds good if I kick on the Sans Amp pedals delay as well. So now I get this sort of sound. The more I have the noise wiper up, it kind of cuts off the end of the delay, because the delay is before the pedal in the chain. So if I turn this down, you're going to hear more noise there, but the delay lasts a little bit longer. So it's just about finding that sweet spot there. But if I turn all of this off for the time being, back to my clean sort of sound. And then one of my newest pedals that I've added recently is the Sonicake digital reverb. I've not actually made a review of this pedal yet, but I have been trying it out in the background. I mean, this kind of is all it does. It's just a slight reverb pedal, but I've put this purposely after the noise wiper pedal, so that when I have the reverb on, the noise wiper, the noise gate can be cutting all of the unwanted noise from the pedals, but it's not going to kill the reverb. So I'll demonstrate that now. If I put this reverb on, it's got a bit of a room one there. If I put it on the middle, this is more of a hall setting. You can hear it there, and you know, I could turn it right up. The noise wiper is not stopping that at all. Which sounds kind of nice with the delay as well. The reverb carries on, but the delay kind of finishes. But just for this, I would probably have it on at the room setting, just because I don't really want a lot of reverb in my tone normally. The main reason I have a reverb pedal, and one thing I found super useful for doing these sort of wedding function gigs, is that sometimes I could be playing in a marquee, basically a big tent, or a teepee or something like that, and it's basically a big cloth room. There's cloth literally surrounding you like a big tent. And when you play in a place like that, and there might even be like a carpeted floor, like a temporary sort of thing, it just absolutely sucks all of the reverb out of everything. It's the flattest sound you will ever have, and it just sounds so dry and lifeless. I'm talking about the whole band, not just the guitar. So anything that you can do to add a little bit more life into the sound, even that little slap back there from the reverb pedal, it's not a lot, but it's enough, and in the middle of like a big marquee or something like that, it just makes it sound a little bit more natural, which is pretty cool. So on top of that, obviously I've got the vol wah pedal there, which is basically just a volume. I actually forget that this is a wah pedal from time to time, and I mainly use it for the volume setting. In the middle of a change, or in the middle of a song, in between songs even, I'll usually just kick this down so that I'm not getting any unwanted noise from my guitar. Obviously a tuner. This guitar is actually in half step, by the way, because because we actually play it down in E flat tuning whilst we play live. So obviously I got my tuner to make sure that I'm in tune for that reason. And that's basically it. So there you go, that is how my pedalboard sounds. I think it sounds really cool. It sounds great for the gigs and everything like that. It sounds even better plugged in through a big PA or big speakers rather than just through my computer, but you know, it sounds pretty good through the computer as well. So, and then obviously in a band or in a full mix with a band, it sounds really good. If anybody is curious, the actual pedalboard itself is the pedal train, which, you know, I got the case with it as well, which is a really cool pedalboard. And the power supply which powers the whole pedalboard I think was just a cheap one off Amazon, and it's one where you can separate all the powers for different pedals. It's not like a daisy chain sort of thing, it's all separate ones, which somebody said was a really good thing to do so that you don't get any interference from one pedal to the next. I forgot to mention earlier as well that whilst I use my Gibson SG for most of the gig, or pretty much all of the gig, it is quite common that I will take more than one guitar to a gig, just, you know, for the inevitable potential string break or something like that, or if any guitars have like any other issues like wiring faults or something. If something goes wrong to one guitar, I've got another one there, I've got a spare that I can use, so I'm not suddenly stuck with no guitar to finish the gig with. So lastly, this is super important, and it's actually something that's quite new for me really within the last year or so, is as well as the guitars and as well as the pedal board, I've said that I don't use amps anymore. And if you don't use amps in a band like this, one thing you need to realize is that there's going to be no on-stage sound through your guitar anyway. My guitar goes into the pedal board, straight into the PA, and I might not be stood anywhere near the speakers. The speakers might be in front of me, I might be behind them, and you'd be amazed how much you just standing behind a speaker, even if that speaker is quite loud, you'd be amazed how much you can't hear what's coming out of it if you're stood behind it, which is most of the time. You don't want to be in front of the speakers, otherwise it's going to cause a lot of feedback from the microphones and things like that, so you need to be behind the speakers. So just being behind them means I can't hear anything, so that is why I use in-ear monitors. Now this set that I use, I've demoed on this channel. I'll leave the link in the description to the demo of this because I was actually sent these by Kimmerfun last year to test out, and these were super useful at the time, and I still use them now and they're great. This is an inexpensive kit which probably cost about, I think, about £100. It's really, really useful, and they charge up and you plug one into the sound desk and the other one is kind of like a little wireless receiver pack that you have on you, and you can kind of set your levels and everything like that at the desk, and I can hear my guitar perfectly in my ears even if I'm behind the speakers. So I highly suggest if you're going to go for an ampless rig and just use pedals, then get some in-ear monitors, you're going to need them. So that is basically it, that is my whole rig. It's quite simple, like I said, guitars straight into a pedal board, straight into the PA, and then obviously the in-ear monitors so I can hear everything in my ears really well. So thanks for watching the video guys, I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then please leave the video a like, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. Do you like the sound of my rig? Is there anything that you recommend? That sort of stuff. Leave me a comment, let me know. If you're new to my channel, then please don't forget to subscribe. I make lots of guitar and music related content, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video. So thanks for watching.